Hello, my name's Bonte, Richard Bonte, and this is Curmudgeonly Yours, a show on Society Bites Radio, part of the Radio Ear Network family, supplying social interaction for the mind and soul. The introductory and concluding music to this show is La Polonaise by Wieniawski, played by Max Bonte. I am your host and curmudgeon, where everything is what it seems. Nothing is what it seems. And what is not said is often of most interest. Today on Curmudgeonly Yours, I'll be narrating the central portion of The Second Promised Land, a supernatural religious novella which I co-wrote with James Crew Allen. The Second Promised Land, or we also call it the Moses story of the Ten Commandments, is the second and last book in the series of the same name, The Second Promised Land, by Richard Bonte and James Crew Allen. This is a tale you have never heard before, but it is true. At least true as far as I know. I have been dead for over 3,000 years. Thus begins the tale of the Ten Commandments when a 9-year-old boy in a New York public library finds an old book detailing a new discovery, that of the Ten Commandments tablet in the Baja California desert. Yes, rumors are flying that the tablet has been recently dug up in the pristine Baja Peninsula. And what with nuclear war threats in the first promised land of Israel, the second promised land of Baja looks to be a better bet. The second promised land is the biblical pathfinder and backstory to the successful The Baja Redemption, also recently published in e-form and on paper on Amazon's Kindle. Listeners, do you know that the Ten Commandments tablet was never found in the desert of Zion, in the so-called Promised Land? Did it ever material exist aside from fiction? In our story, the tablet is found in another promised land, the Baja California desert, or what I call the second promised land. During my last reading, Moses brought down the Ten Commandments tablet from Mount Sinai and found his followers, the children of Israel, worshiping a golden calf. Enraged, he threw his tablet at the calf and broke it. God chided him for this, but told him to go east, always east, crossing rivers and a great sea to find the promised land. Moses would need to assemble noble warriors to help him through his journey, as he divided the children of Israel into two groups, one led by warriors Joshua and Caleb, carrying the repaired Ten Commandments tablet to the Ark of the Covenant in the land of Canaan, and the other with Moses carrying a second Ten Commandments tablet to bury in the second promised land. And now I'm going to read from where we took off last time. God tells Moses to make Joshua, the son of Nun, as well as Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, his right-hand men, and to put them in charge of the repaired tablet. Then he gives him another stone tablet, equal to the first, but much lighter, with the same Ten Commandments engraved upon it, as well as the added inscription, "This tablet lies in the promised land of the children of Israel." Oh, Moses, bury this tablet in the promised land where I show you. But before you leave, have Joshua and Caleb break off the corners of this new tablet and keep these corners in a safe place. The corners will have to be placed in the Ark of the Covenant, an earthen vessel, and they will serve as a constant reminder of the covenant relationship between you, the children of Israel, and me. I want the matching corners to be proof of your having gone to and come back from the promised land. When, thanks to the map, the decornered tablet is found by your descendants, this cornerless proof will be equivalent to a proof of property to the land where it is found. This land, inviolate and pure, will in turn ensure the security of my people throughout the generations and will be known as the Promised Land. Be certain to slaughter a local animal, an animal you have a special attachment to, for otherwise it would not be a sacrifice, and erect a guidepost dipped in its blood next to the burial site of the tablet. When you return from the Promised Land, bury this map with the four corners in Zion. Only with the map will you, and more importantly your descendants, be able to locate the decornered tablet which will prove that you, O Moses, you were there first, that you and your holy people have first rights to the promised land that I do bequeath to you. When Moses returns the next day to the bottom of the mount, he finds his trusted rabbis and elders gathered round the now repaired first tablet. Order and decorum are the order of the day. The rabbis quickly gather the children of Israel round to listen to Moses. Moses delivers what comes to be known as the real Sermon on the Mount. O children of Israel, I have seen God through a burning bush, and he has told me that we are all the chosen ones. And for us there is a true promised land, many moons from here and over a great sea. However, there is also a large oasis just across the Sinai desert called the land of Canaan for the majority of you that he has chosen to stay. For only some of you, it will be up to you to choose which way you want to go. However, for those who are weak, infirm, and old, you have no choice and will have to stay and do what my right-hand men, Joshua and Caleb, tell you to. For a few of you who are able-bodied, I will follow God's will and lead you to our new promised land. However, children of Israel, know that both journeys to the land of Canaan or the promised land will both be fraught with danger. Why does God have trouble with this land right here? And if so, why don't we all go to Canaan together and make that our promised land instead of splitting up? Why must you go far away with the chosen few? The spokesman for a group of troublemakers cries out, breaking the decorum. Do not simmer in your blasphemy like you did with the golden calf, Moses replies. We do not choose the promised land, God does. God doesn't have any problem with most of our people going to Canaan, but God also works in strange ways and in our best interests, Moses chides. God feels we need to reach the promised land to assure our future as a race. Only there will our people be truly safe for generations to come. Moses handpicked about 200 of his most courageous men, women, and their children to accompany him to the promised land. The others were to remain behind and find Canaan. After a vote and much discussion, a timetable was made up for equally valiant warriors, Joshua and Caleb, to lead the huge Canaan team and make their way through the Sinai desert and arrive in Canaan. They were to take strict care of the first repaired tablet, upon which were written the Ten Commandments, and were to always keep it visible in the Ark of the Covenant for consultation by the rest of the tribe. This tablet, which was prepared by God and consecrated by leader Moses in his name, would help Joshua and Caleb maintain order while the prophet Moses was gone. As for the four corners, they were to be kept hidden in the bottom of the Ark of the Covenant. In a great ceremony, Moses then instructed Caleb and Joshua to carefully break off the four corners from the new tablet, number them, and put the pieces in the bottom of the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark was to be buried either in Canaan or Sinai, or wherever the Canaan team made it to, so that the corners could be matched up with a decornered tablet if ever there was need to in the future by their descendants. As for Moses, the next day he gathered his troops, followed God, and started off on his journey, due east towards the true promised land. They would continue to receive inspiration from the burning fire by night and follow the cloud of smoke by day. To start with, and from what God indicated, they would always be on their guard and make their way through Babylon. Then they would trek in a southeasterly direction towards the top of the Gulf of Persia, along the sea route through Persia and on to India, and see how long they would be able to live peacefully without running afoul of other tribes. The boy searched in his jacket pocket. Remember, this is being read by a little boy. The boy searched in his jacket pocket for the scratch paper and his pen. He wrote the page number he had reached, closed the book, and returned it to its place on the shelf. As he walked past the computer area, he stopped, and a thought crossed his mind. He sat at an unused unused table and Googled Legend of the Four Corners. He clicked on a news story. Strange coincidence, it was written in the news story. There have been 3 museum robberies reported today in London, Paris, and at San Simeon in California. Nothing of value was stolen. The only apparent loss was probably worthless pieces of stone in the form of triangles measuring about 3 by 3 inches. The museum curators are befuddled. The boy scratched his head, logged out, and returned to read more of the book after visiting the bathroom. The children of Israel had known each other all their lives, but it was now time for the big group to head north to the land of Canaan, and the other one east to the promised land. Some of the families in both groups had become particularly close, and for them, it was difficult for them to say goodbye to each other. The younger ones particularly could not understand why they could no longer stay together, but the parents explained to them that it was the Lord's decision and that Moses, Joshua, and Caleb would look after them all. However, the children couldn't understand why leaders such as Moses and his 2 chosen leaders would be more blessed than they were, but their parents said so, and in those days, parents knew best. For the 200 or so men, women, and children in the smaller group, it would be a long journey guided by God. For the other 3,800, the journey would be very much shorter, but there would be no Moses to help them, nor God's helping hand in the form of a burning bush or daylight cloud. There would only be the tablets and their guiding principles. It had been decided that both groups would leave together so that no one group would feel left behind. Everyone picked up their belongings and placed them in carts. They loaded their animals for the tremendous journey. These pack animals included oxen, donkeys, camels, goats, and various types of cattle. One camel alone could not only hold a rider, but also 400 pounds of belongings. Unlike many of the people today who live in hot climates, they were fully protected from the sun with various types of wraps and headscarves. They applied oils to their skin and rested during the hot part of the day in the shade of olive trees, or at night in the goatskin tents they set up along the way towards Babylon and southern Persia for the smaller group, or towards the wilderness of Zin for the bigger group. In either direction, it was often a hard slog through extreme desert conditions. They wore cowhide soles for their shoes and sandals. In milder weather, they sometimes went barefoot, as well as wore wool and goat hair on their bodies to protect themselves from the elements. They would light up their tents at night with olive oil, lamps, and eat olives, barley bread, grapes, and almonds. They would drink goat's milk and wine. Women hand-milled corn seed and mixed it in with the previous day's dough, which had fermented, thus allowing the cornbread to rise and bake in grass-fired ovens. Water was always a problem, but they fashioned themselves animal skin pouches, which they would refill from brooks, streams, or wells along the way. By the time the smaller Promised Land group arrived in what is now modern-day Karachi, they were able to go fishing on a regular basis and bake their fish fresh or store it in salt for later use along the way. Over time, marriages were arranged, children were born and wrapped in swaddling clothes so that their limbs became straight. Little boys were circumcised after 8 days. Life went on from day to day. If someone died, their burial was arranged within 24 hours after their body was washed and wrapped. As the children of Israel trekked along, they would come into contact with other travelers or local people, and they would trade with them. This was especially true if one village had an abundance of one sort of crop and wanted to exchange it for something the children of Israel had brought along. Moses or one of his helpers might trade in a few goats to a tribe in exchange for crops or a larger number